if we don't,
We're live, man.
hey,
All right, so we're deal doctors today here, Greg.
yeah,
How does it feel?
I don't think. Well, I'm not sure we can hold a candle to Don, but let's give it a go.
All right, well, today, guys, Greg and I are filling in for Deal Doctor Live. We're covering for Don here today. And so we were just going to talk about, I think we're talking statistics today. And I want to say this, if you're just tuning in, I'll remind you again later. We're going to talk more philosophically about why statistics and when you can use statistics to talk with your clients and just understand different areas of the business, how you can interpret the business, how you can project where the business is going to go. And then I want to announce too that Greg and I are going to follow up this stats class. We're going to make, or this stats meeting, we're going to actually do an actual stats walkthrough. We're going to actually show you how we pull stats. We're going to show you how to get the stats that we look at on a regular basis, both from a higher level and then even from a really practical level, like when you're dealing with a client who asks you, hey, where's pricing going in the next 3 to 4 months? And how could you predict where it's going to go? We'll try and show you how we look at those things as well. But anyways, Greg, let's do a brief intro here on, when I first got in business in 2006, it was. Run me through how you taught stats to me, what you use stats for. What are the most basic stats that you use when you start to glance at the marketplace? What's your initial?
Well, let's talk about, let's do that. But let's also, let's kind of work a little bit with this idea of the why, right? We always talk about in everything we do, there has to be a very strong why. What's your why? And a guy, Simon Sinek, wrote a book, Know Your Why. And it can be employed in multiple areas, but lots of times I think agents don't think they're good at this. I think that agents have not seen the value in spending time in this area. Personally, I have found it to be incredibly helpful for myself in that I could walk into a room and have instant credibility. And so when you think about it, when you meet somebody for the first time, and how do you establish credibility? And I think that statistics are one of those ways, besides the way you present yourself. But you could have a lot of things not going 100%, but if you know your stats, if you understand them, if you're able to interpret them, if you're able to help people understand them in what I'm going to call layman's terms. So a lot of times people will throw a lot of alphabet soup out there, and the public doesn't have any idea what we're talking about. And so that makes no sense to me. It only makes sense if you understand it well enough that you can take it from that higher level with the alphabet stuff and bring it down to the layman's terms where somebody, mom and pa, can understand what you're telling them.
Interestingly, to give you an example, when we used to list properties basically between 2007 to 2010, depending on when they bought, we'd sit down and we would go, hey, you've probably heard things about the market, right? They go, yeah, I hear it's not great. And I'm like, well, let's talk about that. And we would pull out the stats and we walk them through all of the years leading up to 2006 and then down to 2009. And they usually by the end of that conversation, they were like, wow, I had no idea that's where we were. I had no idea that's the number of short sales. That was the number of foreclosures, or that's where values had gone. Yeah. We also got to a point through stats, Greg, where when the market started rebounding, I could say, what year did you buy? And I knew if they bought in 06, 07, 08, 09, 10, 11, I knew where they bought on that upside down V, and I could get really quickly understand what kind of equity they were dealing with and, what the kind of price point they bought, and just based on understanding the market and the stats.
Yeah. So anyway, so when you think about this, let's continue talking about the why. And so what statistics do is it removes subjectivity. And some of you may or may not use these words on a regular basis. I get it. But there's objective things and there's subjective things. And subjective means you can be all over the map. It's just subject to your opinion. Objective, of course, which I believe is why we use stats, is no, these are the facts. These are real numbers. This is what happened. This is the truth. And so I believe that the more you can simplify these stats, you can help the client understand. And then also what that does is that cements your relationship in. It also makes you the expert and somebody that should be listened to. And so that's the other part of this. And then I've always said, whenever I'm talking to somebody, I always am upfront going to use the caveat that I don't have the crystal ball. And, some of this is going to be opinion. And so you just have to know when I'm giving opinion, I'll try to, make sure I clarify that I'm giving my opinion versus stats. And then another thing that I have always used stats for was when I go way back, the real estate industry was fearful of putting square footage on a card. They were fearful because the brokers were fearful that they thought possibly their agents were going to get them sued because they were going to get the wrong information and somebody was going to base a price on some square footage number. And so I used to individually, every time I get a listing, I would walk down to the assessor's office in downtown Grand Rapids or drive down, and I would go down and pull out the card and verify points of information so that I was the expert again. Well, today we have square footage. Matter of fact, they've gone so far now is they actually do the calculation for you as what the price per square foot is. And the reason that I did this is because I found that factually, even though builders don't want to talk about it, ask a builder, by the way, what they charge per square foot. They don't
want to talk about it.
They will fudge. They do not want to talk about it. But I'm here to tell you, at the end of the day, there's a price per square foot for everything. And so whether it's a new build, now again, you can go all the way from a base house up to the super deluxe, and then there's categories in between based on finishes, right? But you can, if you say, look, I'm going to use hard surfaces, there's quartz countertops, there's tile everywhere, there's the windows are, top of the line windows, the decking material is the maintenance free decking, all the railings are all maintenance free. The cement work is stamped concrete. You can go through a number of different things and get to a different category. But the bottom line is there's a price per square foot. And then you've got new construction, you've got existing, you've got recent new, and you've got old, and then you've got the special properties, the historical properties that have a different category. So again, stats, in my opinion, will lead to a more objective, expert analysis on every agent's part. And I'll tell you what, if we could have 750 five-star agents as some of the most educated, knowledgeable, statistic monsters running around out there, we would become known as that person, that company. The agents would be given credibility for no other reason than they're experts. They've proven it. You can tell them or you can show people. And I always believe in showing them. So if I take an article or if I take a graph or a chart, I'm always going to be seen as more of an expert if I have that in my hands or if I hand it to them than if I am telling about it. Because again, people believe what they can see and what they can read. So again, become that expert. You become better. I mean, you become smarter. less flying by the seat of your pants. I mean, how many times have you been caught flying by the seat of your pants, and how uncomfortable does that feel as you're making some statements, knowing that you really don't have the stats down? You're just kind of taking a flyer.
Mm-hmm.
Horrible feeling. And it makes you and us look and feel more professional. So those are some of the whys, Paul, that as I look at, why would you spend any time involved in that when you can just kind of do a CMA and look at some listing cards and whatever and make a judgment? Well, I think that, I've always said that I think that real estate is about 85% science, where you can come up with the facts, and it's probably 10 to 15% art, where now you're able to mold or to take some things that are outside the stats and put those together, which is another very good talent if you possess it, that ability to do the artful part of it. But I think 85, maybe even 90% in most situations can be objective, not subjective.
Yep.
Can be factual driven.
Now, all that to be said is you just put out there that last little art piece. That's the part where, you've got the stats, right? These look like this is pretty concrete what we're seeing here, these stats. Hard to argue with the statistics in front of your face.
Yeah. Do you really want to go down the art program right now and talk, or do you want to stick to the?
Well, what I'm saying is you have to, this is part of the understanding of this is what I was going to say is part of what you're doing is you're interpreting those stats for your client. You're explaining those stats for your client. You're explaining that, what happens if your client tells you that they want to list way above it? I'm just saying, Greg, you've got these stats, and let's say you're going to go fully on the stats portion. You have to blend the art, right?
Yep.
That's my only point is we've worked with agents where they've been a little too rigid because the stats are speaking so clearly.
Yeah.
And how does that work?
Well, I'm not going to deal with art yet.
Okay. All right, so take us on your next journey here then.
That'll take me so far off here right now. I mean, because that's just a wild area.
Well, no, I think it's a simple note. It's a simple note saying, hey, look, guys, what Greg isn't saying is to sit down and speak only numbers to your client, because you're talking to a person that has feelings and emotions.
Exactly. So the next part of this is then, well, where are these numbers, and how do we use them, and where are they? And so I want to just kind of talk a little bit about some of the places. And so because I think we are involved in 16 associations. I think we're involved in 4 or 5 MLSs. And so as an example, Mishrick, if you're in Mishrick, which I'm the most familiar with, which is 12 associations from Kalamazoo up to Manistee. And then the other MLSs, Lansing pretty much has their own. Traverse City is in another MLS with a couple other associations. Jackson just recently joined Mishrick. What else is there? I think so. For the most part, what I'm going to be talking about is what I can see in Mishrick. And what's available to a Mishrick. So if you're in Lansing or Traverse City right now, we will work on getting these numbers. And then what's also interesting is some associations provide their own numbers. I can tell you that GRAR has a very expansive statistics in the background, which you can get beyond what you can get from Flex. When Flex is the MLS for Mishrick, I believe that Traverse City is I think it's Paragon possibly. Lansing is also got Flex, but they've got their own Flex. But everybody who's in the real estate industry has access to RPR, right?
Yeah, RPR, it comes standardized with every single person who's a member of an association.
All right. RPR, I think, is one of the best things that I'm not always a fan of the National Association of Realtors, but this may be one of the best things they've done.
As a side note, real quick, we get questions all the time from someone saying, hey, I'm trying to look up comparables, but I don't have access to the Traverse City board. What should I do? Log on to narrpr.com and you can pull comps from anywhere in the country. Okay. So you have access to pull comps and you can run reports right in, and you can run CMAs right inside NAR from any market. So that's one way around that. That's just an aside note. So anyways, NAR RPR.
There's other things that as agents, if we stop and we think, we go, well, all right, what do I want to know? I want to know about the affordability of my marketplace. Well, you can type in, you can Google affordability index for Kalamazoo or Portage or Schoolcraft or Lansing or any area, Wixom, Mount Pleasant, they're all there. And so it's important that you understand that if you, again, I think the best, and I want to be careful how I say this because there are a lot of people that are not stats monsters who have done very, very well in this industry and have established themselves as a pro. But I'm here to tell you that I believe that the consummate pro understands all these things. You can make a ton of money without being a statistical monster, but I do believe for the majority of us, including myself, this was key to my success in residential real estate. So being a detective, being a researcher requires us to think about how do we find information. Mm-hmm. So you've got Google, you can Google anything today. So affordability, how about the most recent one I came across, I talked about in our thing last week, Paul, was the mortgage report. One of the best reports I've seen on trends, what they're predicting, what's happened, why. So if an agent wants to be the most knowledgeable person around, go Google the mortgage report.
The mortgage report, hey?
Yep.
Is it .com?
I think it was themortgagereport.com. Yeah.
I'm going to share the link here.
All right. And so.
No, that's not it.
It's not.
Themortgagereports.com?
I think, yeah. I mean, I hate to. Anyways, you can put this stuff out for them, Paul, later.
Yep, we'll get it.
Yeah. So what I would like to see the agents do is those people that are inside of Mishrick. If you go to Flex MLS, and now Travers may have this, Lansing may have it, but I'm not aware of it. But there is an area that's called Fast Stats, and it's under inventory.
Now, this is only for people inside of a certain association,
well,
right?
I'm looking at Mishrick right now, and I just want to take them here for those that are in Mishrick.
No, I want to be clear though that not everyone in Mishrick has it. Only certain associations. So, like for example, GRAR will have their own things listed on there. So they can funnel it with. So if you're part of WIMLAR can add different elements, like different add-ons. So right. Can GRAR.
Okay, go do this. Go to if you're in Flex. On the upper right area, there is a button there that says menu. You go to menu, and then in the far lower right-hand side, it talks about RPR, it talks about market stats. And so if you click on market, what is it, market stats?
No, you scroll down, there's one thing called market trends is what you're referring to. Or there's market stats here, yeah. That's under products.
Yep. And that's going to open up something called Fast Stats. And
InfoSparks. InfoSparks. Right.
And then at the top bar, you'll also see Fast Stats.
Yep, and you see Fast Stats.
All right.
You know what I think what I'll do is I'll just show everyone real fast. So here's what Greg is saying. Let me see if I can share my desktop. I wanted to try and show you this, Greg, so they could all see this real fast.
While you're doing that, in the MLS, there's a list of things
can't do
under
it.
that
Sorry.
menu there. Can't do
No,
it.
it won't work.
All right. Okay.
Wait,
Well,
there.
again, all right. So now click on menu button.
So menu, this is what you said earlier. Menu,
Now
scroll
to the
down.
lower right, keep going, and then hit keep
Market
going.
stats.
Market stats.
So, what I want to show you is that this section here is going to differ based upon what association you're a member of. But RPR, that's the one we were talking about earlier. That's a fantastic word to talk about later. But here's market stats. Takes you to Info Sparks, and here you can choose areas. You can search by school district, municipality, entire MLS, and then you have fast stats up here too.
And then you can, Paul, you can go to where it says line right in the middle, just below year built, come down up the top, year built.
Up here?
Nope, come over to the right. Okay, and then drop down and you see where it says line in that bar right here?
Yep.
Click on that. And you can go to, so it allows you to change it, whatever works easiest for you to describe.
Yeah, so if you let's say you wanted to look up I don't know, East Grand Rapids schools, right? Or city, you can go by school, East Grand Rapids by school district here. There's your averages. You can do 3 years. You can actually do, I think you can do a lot longer than 3 years on some of these graphs here. But
so Paul, take it right now over to fast stats up there at the top bar. You got Info Sparks, see fast stats. All right. Now select an area. Let's select Portage as an example.
So, well, that'd be Kalamazoo area.
Yeah, you can go to Kalamazoo.
Oh, you want to go over here? I guess we can go on here. So we'll grab Portage.
Yep. And now hit most recent, hit June 22.
Most recent.
No, you didn't get it.
Yeah, I did.
All right. Okay. So now page down a little bit. And this, I mean, the depth of the statistics here goes beyond anything that I've ever needed. But
Right.
It allows me to show, print off pictures. I can use color. I've got different.
So you can see Portage. Look at this right here. Like, look at this. In year to date, they are down 15% in total closed sides, 11% in pending sales, 11% in new listings. Their days on market sped up a bit. But you can see, yeah.
Well, you can see the average price increase.
Yep.
Almost 12%.
Yep.
And it will break down. I mean, you can break it down into very small municipal areas. It allows us to do that.
Yep.
And so the more in depth that you want to go, you can take it.
So you could, for example, you could go to Ottawa County. Let's say you want to break up the whole county. Boom, there's all of Ottawa County, right?
Yep.
So they're also down about 9.2% in total closed sides.
All right, go back up to fast stats for a minute. I want to show you something else here. Go back up. All right. Hit annual report down here. Hit 21. Now page up a little bit. It's going to give everybody an in-depth. It gives it go back to where it was writing the words, Paul. No, you were there.
Okay.
Page up. And then stop right about here. So it will give detailed reports like this in every municipality. It'll break it down. And it gives you tremendous knowledge when you walk into a home, if you want to print that off, give a copy of it to the clients. But anyway, so that's just what you can do, depending on if you want to do graphs, if you want to just take what they've already worked on for you. But you can grab a lot of information that is going to, without a doubt, make you the pro when you walk into that property and you start to present everything that you know about their market. So anyway, well, let's back out of there, Paul.
Okay. So
we want to do in the, so here's what we want to do in the future, right? We want to take and show how to use this specific to a property. We want to talk about, we will talk about trends when you get into some of the areas of what is the trend right now in the market. There are stats in here right now that you can determine trends. I mean, I can tell you right now in the research that I've been doing, I went out and looked the top 10 companies in Mishrick. In the top 5, the average is down probably 11% right now, year to date on transactions. I can show you that there's 3 companies that are 15% down. There's one company in the top 10 that's up, but they're up by 24 transactions, so pretty much imperceptible. So the majority of the brokerages are down. Mm-hmm. And then you can break it down in multiple ways, but I guess I'll be quiet at this point.
Yeah,
Paul.
no, that's good. I think the idea today was we recognized that this was not really a teaching setting necessarily for us to run step-by-step stats. We wanted to talk about how we use stats, why we look at stats. How can you utilize them to become an expert? How can you utilize them when you're with a tough seller who doesn't believe you when they can't understand why their home's not selling with 25 offers already? You can use these stats to manage those relationships. You can allow the market to be a bit of a bearer of bad news versus your opinion of the market. What we're going to do, and I said this earlier, but what we're going to do is Greg and I are going to commit to doing probably a statistics series that we're going to upload into the new educational website. And so we're going to start breaking down stats in different ways with literal step-by-steps, how you go and you find those and what that'll teach you going forward. Because yeah, it's vital that you learn statistics, because as the market shifts and changes, we talk internally sometimes about, it's easy to look like a genius when the market's booming. Right? It's easy to, when the market's going like this and you're presenting your client with a dozen offers a week, it's really easy to look good. But when the market shifts, interest rates raise, things slow, you hang on to clients more like, rather than hanging on to a client for 2 weeks, you have a client for 5 months. It's going to take a bit more savvy here with understanding the marketplace and helping them navigate that marketplace through the numbers and through statistics. And we're going to hopefully try and help you guys get there. So that's what we're going to commit to doing, right?
I would encourage everybody throughout the state, Lansing, Traverse City, any other associations that are not a part of Mishrick, go to your association site where you sign in and do some research and see what they offer in terms of statistical analysis. See what you can find in Traverse, see what you can find in Lansing.
And if they don't have something, request it. And we can show them examples of things that we're getting from other associations, because every association should be working to make your lives better. And they can do that through different tools and technologies that the MLS platforms. But okay, so we're gonna start working on that stats class, right, Greg?
Yep, but no dates are set right now, or no dates schedule. So
probably not until September.
Hopefully, yeah. All righty.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you soon. Take care.
See ya.